What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Man to Man Football. Today we got the NFC West. Dylan, what you got for me, man?
Man, we're gonna start with the Cardinals, dude, and we're gonna start with the 2020 NFL MVP, Kyler Murray. Everyone, woo!
No.
Man, one of the things we talked about early in this offseason, I had made the bet to you kind of jokingly, was Kyler Murray was gonna have more fantasy points than Lamar Jackson next season going into 2020, and you didn't want it. You didn't want anything about it, and that was before the DeAndre Hopkins trade. So let's
Yeah.
talk about this, man. Let's talk about one of the best wide receivers in the game. One of the most consistent, dominant, physical wide receivers in the game. You put him on a spread offense. You put him with a very talented quarterback who can throw it anywhere on the field. I think DeAndre Hopkins is poised to have an amazing season. Easily over 100 catches. I mean, this dude is gonna eat as a Cardinal. You have a lot of young wide receivers that the Cardinals drafted last year, actually, that continue to see their development. Christian Kirk is one of those guys.
Yeah.
Annie Isabella is one of those guys. Hakeem Butler got hurt last year, never got to see him play, at least not to my knowledge. There's a lot of young talent to go along with Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins. And then you have Kyler Murray sitting back there. This is year two for Kyler Murray. This is year two for Cliff Kingsbury and his system. There's a lot of offense here, man.
Yeah.
I'm really
I,
excited to
the, re-
see. Go ahead. Go
the
ahead.
reason I didn't take that bet, man, I was I'm a little afraid of Kyler Murray, man, and what he could become. I watched his highlights. The guy looks pretty dangerous with not much around him. They're building around him. And then after that DeAndre Hopkins trade, I was like, man, am I glad I didn't take that
Sure.
bet because it was a
Sure.
sucker bet.
Yep.
Kyler Murray was already scary without him, and possibly taking the number one, if not one or two best
Yeah.
receiver in the game. Like pair him with Larry Fitzgerald and the young guy Christian Kirk, learning from both of those
Sure.
guys.
Sure.
Man, this team looks ridiculous on offense, and I can't wait to see Kyler Murray play.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see Kenyon Drake too. They traded for him, but midway last season, he came in and was instantly productive for them. And so Kenyon Drake gets a whole off season with the team. Going into year two with the team, with the system. Cliff Kingsbury knows what to expect from Kenyon Drake now. This is a guy, a runner, receiver threat out of the backfield. This is a guy who can get it done in a lot of ways. And the offensive line, there is some question there as far as how good their offensive line is, but I think with the spread system, the athleticism of Kyler Murray, I don't think their offensive line will hinder them at all. I think this will be a very explosive offense that's going to score a lot of points.
They
Uh,
drafted Josh Jones in the third round to kind of help them out there.
they
I
did.
think he's actually a good pickup there. This draft was very offensive, wide receiver heavy, which means a lot of linemen got pushed down the board, and I think he could be one of those guys.
Sure, sure. And their first round draft pick was Isaiah Simmons. You talk about a
Yeah.
do it all guy on defense. What it sounds like is they're going to start him out at linebacker. But this is a guy who's going to be all over the field for them. I mean, you talk about covering tight ends, you talk about blitzing off the edge, blitzing up the middle. Uh,
Unreal athlete.
Unreal
Unreal.
athlete, unreal size. A guy who literally do it all. He'll play the back end. He had interceptions. Deep down the field at Clemson. This is a guy who is a weapon X for a defense. I mean, you almost have to create a position for him when you have a guy this versatile. Who you can move all over the field and do a bunch of things with. And then they still have Chandler Jones coming off the edge. This is one of the better pass rushers in the league.
Yeah.
Not a guy with a as well known of a name, but a guy who can definitely get it done. They still have Patrick Peterson on the back end,
Yep.
Buda Baker on the back end. I mean, this is a defense that isn't elite or anything like that, but a defense that is getting better. And I think Isaiah Simmons will help that tremendously, tremendously. You talk about anybody you line up with in division, whether it's George Kittle or whoever the big weapon is for the other team. Isaiah Simmons is going to help take that guy away.
Yeah. That guy is unreal in the athletic department. So, I'm interested to see what he does down low in the box majority of the snaps. I would not be surprised if they kind of put him in the corner, or not really corner position, that slot
The
position,
slot
especially when
position,
they're putting that, kind of like a big nickel position almost, and
absolutely.
he'll play that big nickel slot guy. So we'll see. I'm interested to see. Cliff Kingsbury is very creative, so I would not be surprised if they kind of use him like that Swiss Army knife, that slot guy that you know they could do a lot with this guy. So that'll be
You look at
amazing to see.
you look at how successful Jamal Adams has been as a guy who can line up everywhere, as a guy who can run through gaps in the offensive line. It's really hard for offensive lines to account for safeties, who start the play 6-7 yards deep, and it's this he's too athletic, he's too big. He's going to be a great football player for a long time for them.
Yeah. Do you biggest question? What do you think if for some reason this team gets hindered? What will be their downside? What's their weakest link right now?
In my opinion, it would be their offensive line.
Okay.
It would be, Kyler Murray starts to get dinged up or something like that. Like you said, they addressed it in the third round. Um, their offensive line has had some trouble in pass protection. But Kyler Murray's able to erase some of that with athleticism. Yeah.
Okay.
So if there is a weakness to their team, it is up front for sure.
Definitely. Alrighty, let's go ahead and start talking about the Seahawks. Got to start with the massive trade, Jamal Adams coming
Big.
in. Big change for their safety position. Another big change for them is losing another big name, Jadeveon Clowney. But man, what do you think about Jamal Adams, Dylan? Like, I think we both know he's going to be a phenomenal help for them in the back end. He's a unreal athlete in there. How do you think they'll change defensively just because of how elite Jamal
Sure,
Adams
sure.
is?
Yeah, I mean their whole defense got better. It's not just it's not just the pass game, or it's not just this, it's not just that. I mean their whole defense, their pressure, their ability to stop the run, and then coverage on the back end. I mean everything gets better. This guy's aggressive. He's a playmaker. He does everything for you. This guy's worth however much they end up paying him when his contract. He's gonna be worth every penny for sure.
I think having I think this Seattle team has I say a big name or like an elite guy at every level. You've got Bobby Wagner holding down the middle at the middle linebacker position, drafting Jordan Brooks in the first round this year. And I actually really like Puna Ford in the middle. I really like him. Big guy. I think, they have somebody that on every level that's dangerous. And so, we'll see what they can do with that defensively.
For
But
sure.
I think this defense is going to be nasty as they usually are. They're going to continue being great under Pete Carroll. Ken Norton's doing a phenomenal job with this defense, and I'm very excited to see what they can do.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and move on to who I believe is the number one quarterback in the NFL. Talent wise, overall, just all the above. The guy can do it all. Russell Wilson. He's agile, he's quick, pocket presence. The guy just makes magic happen. He's done it for years with very little around him. And when I say very little around him, I mainly mean that offensive line. That offensive line has tended to struggle the past couple of years. I don't really know why, because they have vet guys up there. They're not like, superstar Pro Bowlers, but they should be if they've been in the league this long, they should be producing, and that's what I'm kind of worried about. This offensive line is definitely a struggle for them. Um, just imagine how dangerous Russell could be if he had someone up front to block for him. Like, the guy is already ridiculous. Tyler Lockett makes him look even more ridiculous,
Sure, sure.
making ridiculous catches on the sideline. And you've got a kind of a breakout receiver last year, DK Metcalf. A lot of people were questioning how well he gets used at the NFL level, just because he's, I mean, a giant, ridiculous robot-looking muscle guy. But I'm interested to see what they continue to do as they continue to develop with DK. Russell continues to develop with DK, and he's shown he can be dangerous downfield, and I really like what they can do on offense. They did bring in Greg Olson, also, as well as Will Dissly, but this offense isn't going to struggle. They're going to be. I don't think they'll struggle just because Russell Wilson never struggles. Even
Sure,
when he's under duress, he's not struggling. He's
sure.
still just comfortable doing his thing. So
Just about
We'll
anybody they
see.
put out there is going to be productive because Russell Wilson will be throwing them the football.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Tyler Lockett has, man, made some amazing catches with this guy. So I can't wait to see what kind of highlights DK Metcalf can bring to the
Yeah,
table because that boy is big and he can do it.
yeah.
So we will see. I can't wait to see how he develops in this league. Um, I hope Greg Olson can stay healthy. He's tended to struggle with that. I think he'll be a great red zone guy for them, but he just has to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think they've got three really good tight ends. Curious to see how they use all those guys. Um, or if all of them can stay healthy. I know Will Dissly has been banged up a lot too. Was really productive last season until he got hurt.
Yeah.
I really like Chris Carson. I think he's capable of being a workhorse. They also brought in Carlos Hyde, so I think they'll have a nice little 1-2 punch there of some physical running backs who can get it done.
Respect to Carlos Hyde for staying in this league, man. The guy is just ridiculous. Um, he's like a machine. The guy doesn't stop, which is great. But yeah, I love Chris Carson. I think he had kind of a down year last year. Prior to that, I think he was kind of getting overshadowed by their prior running back. I can't really remember his name right now. But um, this offense looks great, just as they did last year. I think they continue to roll. It really just depends on how well they can do on defense, and I think they filled a lot of holes on that defense. So the biggest question mark, the only question I really have is the pass rush for this defense.
Okay.
Um, you've got a big guy like Puna Ford holding it down in the middle, but their edge rusher guys are really young, so I'm wondering if they can, bring it home. We'll
Sure.
see.
Sure. All right, man. Let's go ahead and jump into the 49ers here. Um, team that was in the Super Bowl and was leading for 3.5 quarters and gave Mahomes too many chances. The question with that is always the kind of the Super Bowl hangover for the team that didn't win it. Where are these guys going to be? How motivated are they? How hungry are they still? This could be a revenge tour for them if they want it to be.
And they have the talent to do it.
And they absolutely have the talent to do it. I love what the 49ers did this offseason. They did lose a couple guys. We'll get into that here right now. Joe Staley retired, their longtime left tackle.
Yeah.
What they did there is they traded with the Washington football team. Trent Williams is a guy who's been sitting around for a couple years. He's considered still one of the best left tackles in the game. There was the thing there where he didn't trust the medical staff because of how the Alex Smith situation played out. So Trent Williams, he didn't want to play in Washington. Washington finally found a partner who's willing to trade for him. The asking price, whatever it was, it finally lined up. He is now a 49er. I would think that this guy, there's going to be hardly any drop off there between Joe Staley and Trent Williams. At wide receiver, they did have Emmanuel Sanders leave. He's a Saint. They traded for Emmanuel Sanders last year. They needed a guy who could come in and beat man coverage, win some routes, win some one-on-ones. Emmanuel Sanders did great for that. Great for them last year doing that. He is now a Saint, so they drafted Brandon Aiyuk out of Arizona State. I would guess that they're really high on this kid. Is not just a replacement, but him as an athlete. It sounds like early in camp he's the easily the most explosive wide receiver they have. So they, again, it's you lose a guy, you plug in one that seems to be very capable of getting it done. And then on defense, when you have as many young and talented players as they do, they decided to sign Eric Armstead to a long-term deal. And so what they did there was they traded away Buckner, DeForest Buckner,
Yep.
and they drafted Javon Kinlaw in the first round. And this was the pick from the Colts. This was the 13th pick. And so again, you look at a guy who, one guy's out the door, you got to, plug another one in. And even if there is a little bit of a drop off there, this is a very talented guy, arguably one of the best D tackles in the draft. This team, top to bottom, again, before the Super Bowl, we were talking about, this team around the quarterback is probably more talented than the Chiefs. And I think that was something that we both agreed on. And
Yeah,
so this,
defensively especially, they're
especially,
way better than the Chiefs, but um, they don't have Patrick
the
Mahomes.
difference is Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. The question here, man, because you look at a team that's talented top to bottom. The question here is, when they get in the crunch time in the playoffs, if they get back to the Super Bowl, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to hit the throws this time? He had two opportunities in the fourth quarter in that game on third down to
Big
complete
misses.
passes that would have kept the ball away from Mahomes, and you know, one or two of those, get completed, and it's a whole different game, and he's the one standing, holding the Lombardi.
But
So
before we dive too deep in him missing those throws, I do think that it did hurt them. They stopped running the ball for some reason. But before we dive too deep into the to the game, let's continue talking about the team. But Raheem Mostert, one of the speediest running backs we've probably seen in the past couple of years, come out of nowhere. I believe they just signed him to, I think, like a 2-year extension or something like that. Um, but I really, really like their running back position. Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely like not, I wouldn't say a weak point for these guys, but he's definitely a good question mark for them in the playoffs.
right,
Um,
when it comes down to
like
crunch time, when it comes down to him
right,
making a big throw, is he gonna hit it this time for sure?
yeah, and hopefully he develops. You obviously we're football guys. We hope for the best for everybody. We love seeing competitiveness on the field, and if he can continue to see the field a little bit better, because that's honestly what I felt like it came down to is if he could have seen the field a little bit better, he would have made those throws. Because there were times where he did overthrow a receiver at one point,
Hmm.
but there was another play watching the game again where like two receivers go. I think it's either two receivers or one guy just breaks free and nobody's near him and he doesn't even throw his way. He throws to a guy where the safety is rolling over the top and
Hmm.
makes the pass break up. So
Hmm.
I'm interested to see George Kittle, man. What do you think about him?
Yeah, George Kittle just got signed. In my opinion, this is the best tight end in the game. You talk about somebody who is elite as a receiver and a run blocker. That's the difference between him and Travis Kelsey for me. Travis Kelsey is elite as a wide receiver. I don't even know if Travis Kelsey blocks people in the run game, honestly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean George Kittle is the man for sure. He's gonna keep doing it. Um, yeah, he's the best tight end in football in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is as well. If you had to pick a weakness, well, let's not even go there. Let's say, do you think Richard Sherman continues to be as good as he has been for the 49ers?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's not even the guy on this defense. I mean, he's one
Yeah,
of the guys.
very true.
They're not asking him to. This is not a Patrick Peterson situation where like Richard Sherman is man up against your best wide receiver all day, every day. Richard Sherman plays his cover three zone. He sits back there. He talks a lot. He's a leader. He's going to do a lot of those things. But no, there shouldn't be any drop off from Richard Sherman.
Good. Yeah,
He's never been a super athlete, so he may lose a step. But I mean, this is still a really good football player, and he's only going to continue to get smarter as he goes on in his career.
and people say he has lost a step already. So I mean, if he continues to do as well as he has been with this team, what does it even matter? Like, unless you're like ridiculously slow for some reason,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um, yeah, I think he'll be fine.
I
I
think
think this team is gonna
he
be
had
fine.
one play in the Super Bowl where Sammy Watkins got loose on him, and I think a lot of people are kind of hanging that on him. Like, look, he's old now, yada yada yada. It was one play in a Super Bowl. It's all good.
If you get beat in the NFL once, you're doing great. So
Right,
like
right.
that's my thing. You
Throughout
have
the
to
course of a
week
game,
in
yeah.
week out. You're not playing. Just Joe Blow off the side of the street. Like you're not just playing these ridiculously untalented receivers. Like you're in the NFL for a reason. These guys have to produce week in and week out, and I think Richard Sherman has definitely proved that. But
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
really, I really like the 49ers again.
Yeah, I like their offseason, man. This is a team. The day after the Super Bowl, everybody was talking about, we could see the Chiefs and the 49ers for the next 3 years in the Super Bowl. And I mean, when you look up and down this team and the Chiefs, for that matter, two very young, very talented teams that, no excuses if they don't have a great season. I mean, yeah, there's nothing at all. They're way too talented.
I agree. Um, let's go ahead and move on to the Los Angeles Rams, man. Uh, first off, I gotta start with this. You just have to. How can you be as big as Aaron Donald and be that ripped? Did you see the HBO
uh,
video?
I looked
With
away. It
the
was scary, man.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's legitimately scary for
Yeah,
me. had the exact opposite reaction. I could not look away.
There
The
you
guy
go. There you go.
is, I mean, the guy is built like a brick house. He's
Yeah.
just ridiculous. Definitely the staple for this defense. Other than that, I really feel like this defense didn't get much better. They they didn't really pick any guys up. They didn't really draft. They picked up a lot of guys that are really young on the back end. A lot of free agents, a lot of later draft picks for their defense. But man, other than Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, I don't see this defense. I don't really see how this defense got any better. Do you?
No, I don't. Uh, the only thing I guess you could say there is, can Jalen Ramsey? I feel like he's kind of taken a step back as far as being elite, right? I think the Rams have kind of used him in a different way than he was used in Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, he was used as a man cover corner, and then erase your best wide receiver. And I feel like for the Rams, he's been much more of a zone cover corner. Sit back. I'm seeing him coming up and making tackles now. I don't need Jalen Ramsey making tackles. I need him locking down people like Julio.
Yeah.
Need him locking down the best wide receiver the other team has. And so I think there's a scheme thing there with Jalen. So no, unless they change up how they do business, I don't think this is a team that is looking much better on defense now.
Yeah, this team has lost a lot in the past 2 years. Man, this defense has lost a lot on the past 2 years. Like it's crazy to me how this team went from being a Super Bowl contender and all of a sudden they just see. We've talked about this before. I give credit to Sean McVay for going all in on a season and betting on himself and betting
Yeah,
on the team, bringing in all this talent, all this talent, all this talent, and he made it to the Super Bowl.
he did.
Whether he won or not, he made it there. That's easily the hardest thing to do.
Yeah,
Once you're there, then you can just focus and play. Obviously, if you're there, you have the talent, in which he brought in the talent to get there, and he did. A lot of coaches are scared to do that because they're scared to give away stuff, and I gotta respect the guy that's willing to do that. Now they did fall apart as fast as they built because they brought in a lot of these guys that were either on
sure.
contract years or they were, bringing them in on 1 year deals. So I really like that Sean McVay did that, but we will, this team is unfortunately rebuilding a couple years after going to the Super Bowl, which
Yeah.
isn't. I don't think it's I think it's pretty common for teams like this, especially if you're with the all-in and make it there
Yeah.
kind of bet. And he did, and now he's trying to build it
Yeah.
now. So I don't really see this team.
And I see what you're saying, because they did. I mean, they sold their soul to make it to a Super Bowl. They did. They went out and they made every move they could. Okay, and so I see what you're saying with the respect thing. I think they're in a lot of trouble. Okay, you have a lot of guys on big contracts, and it makes it impossible to rebuild if that's the case. You have Jared Goff. Say what you want about, if he's an elite quarterback or not. Jared Goff is under a huge contract. They haven't paid Jalen Ramsey yet. Um, Aaron Donald was the highest paid defensive player until just a couple weeks ago. This team is in a lot of trouble. One of the things that I want to say and kind of challenge Sean McVay a little bit, the Patriots figured you out in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. You
Did.
haven't been the same team since. And so if Sean McVay is the innovative and creative offensive mind that people were tagging him as, it's time for Sean McVay to step up and find a way to get it done on offense. And again, you talk about the pieces they've lost. I know they lost a couple of their interior linemen, a couple years ago. Now they don't have Todd Gurley, and I think that's a big thing to talk about too. Todd Gurley was the key to that offense.
Yeah.
Everything ran off Todd Gurley. So, I'm curious to see what you think about Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson as even somewhat matching the production of Todd Gurley.
I don't think they come anywhere close to what Todd Gurley could do for them. Maybe they're betting on Cam Akers coming in as their second round pick to take over and become a second round steal. We'll see,
Sure.
but I don't really see these running backs unless Cam Akers can basically
Okay.
become the guy for them.
Betting on the
But
rookie.
my biggest argument to you for this team and for Sean McVay is I don't. They did sign Jared Goff to a massive contract because of that Super Bowl. I think he ends up becoming more or less like a Joe Flacco.
Okay.
He's gonna get released because he can't produce.
Okay.
And if this team does struggle and they end up at the bottom of the pack, it's gonna be Jared's fault. I don't necessarily know if it's Sean McVay's fault and Kevin O'Connell's fault for Jared not producing. Like you said, Sean McVay is an offensive. He came out to be as an offensive genius, and that's why he became the youngest NFL head coach.
Sure.
So I think he's still got it, man. I don't really have any. Like I said, a lot of guys. Sean McVay bet on himself and bet on this team and made ridiculous moves to make this team a Super Bowl contender, and they did. They came out the woodwork in a preseason, not the preseason. They came out the woodwork in the free agency market. They came
Mm-hmm.
out the woodwork in the draft. They made big names, big trades, and they moved people around. And he made it there. So if I've got faith in a guy that if he can do that,
Okay.
almost year one, year two,
Yep.
he can continue to rebuild this team. The biggest problem for them, like you said, is cap management, and I would not be surprised if Jared Goff gets released if he can't produce this year.
Okay.
He's either
Okay.
he's got to produce this year, or I'm not really sure what his contract negotiations are. I know they're still paying Todd Gurley a certain amount of money this year because of guarantees and stuff,
Sure.
but I think right now they're in a tough spot salary cap wise, and I think they're just kind of in a rebuild, which isn't anything bad. The Browns have been rebuilding for years, so like,
Well,
why
the
wouldn't you
the the
a
difference
guy that
there, the difference there is the Browns haven't had anybody to pay.
true?
And so they can bring in anybody they want. And get high draft picks and all those type of things. The Rams are in trouble here, man. If you're looking at a team who isn't contending but has all the cap problems that they have, there's something's gonna have to give. And so I kind of like what you're saying with Jared Goff.
Yeah,
One of the
that's
things,
that's my cap help for them. I really
sure,
don't see him being here very long, and that'll free up a lot of money. Like, yes, they're probably going to lose a lot of money in that. Like, they lost money cutting Todd Gurley, um, but if you can manage this, which I think Sean McVay can, I think he's got the smarts, he's got the talent as a young football coach. He's going to learn, and I think Cooper Kupp on the outside and Robert Woods and these guys are going to produce, but they may not produce this year. I think
okay,
they're rebuilding. I think their biggest problem right now is cap management. No matter what, the football season comes. Like, you got to play ball. Like, so
almost
cap management
wasn't true
or
this year,
not,
but
sometimes you gotta take a break and take a year and say, hey, look, we're rebuilding,
okay,
and that's okay. And so they may be looking to trade a Jared Goff to, who knows? They could be trading Jared Goff down the road to maybe a Chargers team who thinks Jared Goff's a great guy,
sure,
or I mean, anything like that.
sure,
Teams are always hunting for quarterbacks, and this guy went to a Super Bowl. People are gonna dibble on that. They're gonna bite on that. They're
yeah,
gonna take that trade, or
it's
they're
true,
gonna, so whether they cut him or trade him, it really rides this year on Jared Goff. So whether Sean McVay likes him or not, it's football. You got to get rid of him if he can't produce. And I
absolutely,
think this team can produce offensively with Sean McVay at the helm. Their defense is pretty good. They've got the biggest and best defensive tackle on the line. They can build. They can build through this draft. They've got a lot of young draft picks, a lot of second rounders. So those guys should be plug and play starters. They may not be superstars, but they're going to be plug and play starters for most NFL teams. I think this team is just in a rebuild. They're trying to figure out what they want to do, and that's unfortunately that kind of sucks for a struggling team because you want them to be great and you want young Sean McVay, exciting Sean McVay to be good. But this is part of NFL. This is part of football. Um, I think they just have to figure out what they want to do this year and buy into either next year or the year after that.
mm,
So we'll see.
okay,
Um, but
okay, I got you.
but yeah, man,
Well, hey, when it's all said and done, man, when the season's over, who do you think wins this division?
man,
I
this
think
is
this is a tough one. This is another tough one.
Yeah. Um. I mean, I think the 49ers are going to be just as good as they were last year. So they're going to produce. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will be who he is, and I think he's kind of like their basic. They're betting on him to be as good as he was last year. So, and I don't know. This team hasn't changed much, so I think this 49ers team will probably repeat as the NFC West champions.
Okay.
They're too
Okay.
good everywhere.
I I'm gonna swing it a little bit, man. I think the Seahawks with the addition of Jamal Adams, dude.
Yeah,
I think so. The biggest thing with the 49ers, you gotta stop the run game. If
yeah.
you do that, you force Jimmy Garoppolo to have to make some of those throws that we talked about, and I think the Seahawks are poised to do that. And then if you have them kind of playing on their back foot and forcing Jimmy G to be the man, I think the 49ers may be in some trouble in some of these games against really good teams and against good defenses. And so Russell Wilson, you already know he's the guy.
Yeah. Oh
And so
yeah.
I think the Seahawks are on their way to being the man in this division.
I like that. I like that. Obviously, that means for me, Seahawks are falling to number two. Russell Wilson's just too good, man. He's just too good. This
Sure.
defense got even better. Pete Carroll's always done a fantastic job with this defense and basically playing phenomenal defense, keeping the ball in Russell Wilson's hands, and if you can do that, he's going to produce.
Sure.
So the guy for some reason loves the end zone. I'm not sure why, but he loves it, and
And who
he
would
he
love that place, dude? I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, he can get there though.
Yeah.
So yeah, Seahawks for me is definitely number two. So 49ers for you would be two.
Would be too. Yeah, definitely. They're way too
Okay.
talented. As much as I like the Cardinals, as much as I like Kyler Murray, and they gave the 49ers trouble last year in both games, but I think the 49ers will take care of the rest of it. Even if they drop one to the Cardinals, I think they're going to have a good enough record at the end to be a second in the division.
So that definitely
That
puts Cardinals at three for probably
Cardinals,
both of us.
both of us.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so three for me for the Cardinals. I would not be surprised if they just come out hot and end up being two or one, maybe.
Okay.
If Kyler Murray can be ridiculous with DeAndre Hopkins out there, uh, man, they could be
Sure.
crazy dangerous on offense. I think their biggest question mark and probably why we both put them at three is their defense.
Yeah. And it's more just like a depth thing. When you
Yeah,
look at the Seahawks and the 49ers. I mean, those are teams who have had, years and years to build. Cliff Kingsbury's in year 2 right now. Cliff Kingsbury's doing a great job. They're drafting well. They're putting talent around Kyler Murray. They're also not forgetting about their defense, right? Isaiah Simmons is going to be a great football player.
oh yeah,
So I think they're 3 right now, and I think their future's bright for sure.
and I think we can both agree the Rams have a lot of
A
problems,
lot
and
of
just
problems.
gotta figure it out, and
Yep.
they're gonna hold down the number four spot. And I hope to see Sean McVay rebuild this team and become a contender. But see,
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do, man. The Dolphins were in a bit of a cap situation there, and so they tanked for Tua and traded everybody away.
they clean house.
I don't know if the Rams are kind of in that same boat. One of the things I do know is, if they become a team who's not competing, Jalen Ramsey's not going to be happy either. And he's
Absolutely.
he's gonna, I don't know if he'll demand a trade or whatever, but he's gonna want his way out of there pretty quick.
The
Um,
guy's gonna make a lot of noise, and if he doesn't, I'll be surprised.
sure,
But
sure.
he does like to talk, so I would not be surprised if in a couple of years, if not next year, he
Yeah,
starts coming out like,
yeah,
"Man, I want to be with the team that wants to win," blah
sure,
blah. But
sure.
um, yeah, I could see that happening, which would help them. Again, we're talking
Free up
about
some
this
of that
cap
cap.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Jalen Ramey's worth a couple first rounds, so
yeah.
we'll see. We've
That's
seen
hey,
that
that's
happen.
true.
I wouldn't be surprised if they traded away. And I honestly would love to see Sean McVay trade Aaron Donald, trade Jalen Ramsey, trade Jared Goff, and just rebuild for the next 2 years. I would
Mm,
not mind that one
mm.
bit.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that would be an interesting team. I think that would be worth watching. So
It would be exciting as fans for sure. It would suck if you're a Rams fan.
yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
That's,
it would be exciting for us to watch. The plethora of draft picks they would have if they ended up doing something like that. Um, because I would still like to think that Sean McVay is an elite offensive mind. We just haven't seen it. since they played in the Super Bowl. Um, so
I think he is. I truly do. So hopefully he can make it happen. We'll see.
for
But I
sure.
think that about wraps it up for the NFC West. Um, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let us know what you think of all the videos we have.
Yes, sir.
Um, thank you guys for everything.
Yeah, any comments, critiques, we love it all.
We plan to do this weekly throughout the NFL season, as long as Corona doesn't put any halt to that. But man, excited.
Excited for sure.